departments, programs, and one arts. So yes, we are still predominantly on the engineering side of things. It's interesting that these ideas are coming out of the artists, not coming from the engineers. And the engineers are often in search of solution, or they have technologies and they're trying to find a user. Whereas what I like what these guys are doing, they're users who are solving problems for themselves and they need the programmer. So they're taking it. Product design is mostly successful when you attack it from the idea of the use and the need rather than I've got this really cool technology and why aren't you using it?
Okay, so like what my project kind of set out to do was create a whole lot of dialogue between the students themselves. Because one of the things that, constantly, and Thomas really knows this, we come into class, we sit down, we listen to the lectures, and then we take our notes, get up at the end of the day, and walk out. There's not a whole lot of discussion or really collaboration going on in between any of our classes. So what I wanted to do was create a sort of social network-ish website where the students could do very much the same thing that what Thomas said us to do, was kind of upload their art, critique it, be able to add comments, things like that. But building a little bit more on that, kind of build portfolios for themselves so they can kind of prep their work and kind of give feedback to each other so that when they get ready to step out into the real world, they have all their materials together, they know how they're going to present and do things. And not just that, but a whole litany of other features. One of the big things that we had, of course, there's the basic gallery that you see right here. The students, of course, can upload their things in this. We've got it organized by traditional art, which is sketches and things like that, photography and digital things like that.
Before you leave that page, one of the things that is a problem, at least at our school, and I think probably elsewhere, not the art schools necessarily, but the students work really hard on their projects. And they spend a lot of time on these things, and they don't often get seen outside of their particular class. Duryea, who's sitting back here, works on, she's had a project for Frank's sound design class, and they're lucky enough to get their stuff shown or heard in here. And they've done other things with the DMA. But even then, those are one-time events. They disappear after that, and her work now is either going to be on her website or it's going to be stuck somewhere. And the community at large, the more people that are involved in this in sort of an organic fashion, the larger it grows. And so, they can put, everybody independently can put stuff into this, and not one person has to drive it. And that's one of the things that I think is very important, and why when we're seeing advances being made on the web these days, it's more organic and not an owner. There's not a webmaster per se for this particular site.
Here was some of Michael's art. Yeah, he's one of my other group members, and Christine has a few things up here. And so you can comment on it, you can give it a rating, things like that, add in your own personal little notes about it, though it isn't as pretty as Thomas's, I'll admit. The other thing that was really important to us was the instruction that we were getting. We have Todd Fechter, who's our primary 3D modeling guru, and he also really does texturing and a bunch of other things. And then, of course, Minori Katagawa does animation, and I can't think of the other professors just offhand. But we wanted to kind of keep building upon our knowledge and not just restrict it to the few professional professors that we had. So another thing that was important to us was that we create a system so that users can go in and either pull tutorial material that they need, or instruction material, from the web, or they could create it themselves on their own computers. And we've provided them a space for them to do that as well. This is just a listing, really, of all the different types of applications that students would use in their content creation. And so they can go through it, filter by it, and then look at it, whether it's a written document, a video, a flash, or it's something like that. And they can look at it and even add comments to the author so they can change it up as well as they need.
Now this seems, sort of geeky and whatnot for some people, but there's real value behind this, because the students, when they get involved, every class, every semester, it's like everybody reinvents the wheel. And of course, part of that's the learning process. But there's a tremendous amount of knowledge that's gained every semester that these guys are going out and they have to go through the entire noise on the web. So if you've ever tried to do a Google search on something and you get 5 million returns and you have to weed through all that, eventually someone's going to weed through and they're going to find something that really helps them. And so the ability to be able to collect that knowledge in an easy way, again, more organic. You download a tutorial, you like something, or maybe you solve your own problem. Students are doing this stuff all the time. They've got web cameras on their computers these days, they've got audio. We've even had one of his members of his team actually did some screen work when they're including new software at the school, and the students are constantly saying, how do I use this, what do I do, where do I go, etc. And they don't read anything, they don't follow instructions, they're not going to read an FAQ, which is like a frequently asked question list. They don't pay any attention to it, they just jump into it. And they're very visually oriented these days, and they are very, they don't like reading instruction books. And so the nice thing about what they're attempting to do here is that if you can collect this information at the point when you need it, and you have a place to put it fairly easily, you can imagine after a semester or 2 or 3 semesters, the amount of data that's collected in here, and now when other people have problems and they're looking for answers, they've got a place to at least start.
And it's certainly refined for the sake of the students and what they will need. And as Professor Wendorf said, it's a lot more cleaner. The project section of our website is really for the students themselves. If they have a group project they want to start up or something like that, like say if Thomas needed help programming his website, he needed to call somebody else in, he could throw up a little section in here and say, okay, I need a programmer to do some work on a few things, and he can get some sort of email from that other user that was
the professor who was here who left before I had the opportunity to actually say, hey, stay because I need your input. This idea is somewhat coming out of some of his work. These guys go through, they do projects every semester. And so what happens is, and I'm going to pick on Duryea tonight since you're, Duryea she's a new grad student. She was here for a sound project, but she was in one of my other classes, and what was amazing is she didn't have any knowledge of some of these tools necessarily. How do you edit in Final Cut Pro? How do you edit in Soundtrack Pro? Or how do you do certain things? By being able to post an idea for your project, in Frank's case, the sound design professor, it was, I'm working on a voiceover project, I need a female voice, who might be interested? Right now, the way they solve these kinds of problems is they stick flyers on doors, because that's the traffic pattern where people will see them. And then, if you don't make it attractive to catch the eye, no one's going to see it anyway. So they have no place necessarily to go. Putting this stuff in a larger community helps drive people who are interested. They don't have to just go to a database now. Who likes databases? Who wants to go query the database? That's just one more place to have to go and remember. They don't want to do it. But if they're in here and they're doing other things as well, the ability to find people to help you work on projects is invaluable. And there's a lot of talk. We're building a new building soon, and every professor is talking about collaboration. They don't quite understand what it means yet, as much as some of us would like them to understand, but this is the kind of stuff that's starting to evolve, and it's not coming from the professors, it's not coming from people who are specking out buildings, it's coming from students.
So in the same vein for the projects, what we also have is like the jobs board, and that works exactly the same way. A student, or particularly a teacher, can come in here and post a job. If, like, say, one of the animation professors comes along with an offer at Pixar or DreamWorks, they can post it up in here, and the students can follow the link, go right to where they need to go.
Kitagori? Is that how I was saying her name right?
Kitagawa.
Kitagawa. She's one of the PhD professors there. She gets job listings all the time. I actually have gotten several job listings in the last semester or two. I usually get several. Chip Wood gets several. We have no place to put these. What they do is they email them out. Students don't read their emails anymore. half of them aren't paying a bit of attention. So it's the ability for us to not only put stuff there that we get, but